Welcome, good people. You have stumbled into the Deep Shot Monday Night live stream, wherein we will answer, I don't know, any burning fantasy questions that you may have, while also discussing the events of Week 11. It's me. It's Dalton. Dalton, how are you? How's the weekend treating you?
Some complaints. It wasn't the greatest football weekend for me. Some frustrating things. I had Sean Tucker on a few benches, including the matchup versus you. I had him going in one place, but wasn't the greatest weekend. Although the Niners came out with the win. A lot of injuries, a lot of frustrating, decisions that went opposite of where I was going. But it's football. How about your
I,
Bears? They keep winning. The Bears.
I,
I mean,
I feel like Sean Tucker on the bench is going to be one of those like fantasy football rite of passage things, right? Like I don't know. It would have been really difficult to pull the trigger on him. It would have to be.
I had
Yeah,
him
go
ranked
ahead.
aggressively as my RB 30 or 31. I almost had him ahead of Walker. I liked him, and I did have him in some spots. And even I had Jonathan Taylor and bye against you and just the PPR format. And, of course, no one saw that coming. It's just, I don't know. The writing was really there. The Bills are susceptible against the run. Rashad White was losing work to them, but obviously we didn't see a three-pack. But it is funny that he's the number one fantasy back last year for 1 year, too. And he'll probably go on and disappear now as soon as Bucky Irving returns. But in the aforesaid matchup, Andy, I did take you down. It looks like by 1 or about 2 points in our NFFC matchup, with Taylor on the bye and Tucker on my bench. It was one of those brutal, low-scoring affairs. So you lost Jacobs in the middle of the game, and I apparently I'm going to lose Chase next week from many, many teams for him being suspended, and that's not great. But I had to get that shot in there after you whooped me in our auction matchup last week.
Man, yeah, we'll get to Josh Jacobs in a little bit. That's really frustrating because, my God, he would have scored. We could talk about Emmanuel Wilson in a few moments, but I mean, Josh Jacobs is a lot better player and would have had a hell of a day and was having a hell of a day. So that one's a little frustrating to me. You must have had a pretty good day though, because like I have McCaffrey in that league. I'm good in that league. So, hat tip to you. I think I also had a Rondé Gadsden, and everything Chargers was an absolute bust. You mentioned the Bears. That was exciting. I mean, it was exciting, but I mean, that's just what the Bears do. That was like every Bears game all season basically is an opponent takes the lead, but gives them a little too much time. And the Bears do some, I don't know, I'm not even going to say magical thing. Like they were left 50 seconds and they had a nice return and they set up a field goal and they hit it. And I don't know, that's just the Bears taking care of business, I guess. That's the way the year's going to go. Bears now in sole possession of first place in the NFC North. That's exciting. I think actually like the one legitimate takeaway from that game is that Luther Burden played 33 snaps and Olamide Zaccheaus played 10 snaps and didn't see a target. And like Burden didn't have a noisy day in the box score, but he's got that job now. And I would imagine him in the slot quite a bit going forward. And he is clearly leapfrogged. But it doesn't seem like anything to leapfrog Olamide Zaccheaus. But again, the Bears came into the season loving that guy and wearing him out early in the year. So Luther Burden having those opportunities is a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it's too bad they really have not produced the fantasy points from the receivers as we had hoped with Ben Johnson. Maybe the tougher schedule coming up will change that. But yeah, Zaccheaus is hopefully now gone, and we'll see what the rookie can do. With a lot of rookies are turning to. We saw some Tootin emerge as well. But I want to talk to you about J.J. McCarthy. I was in on him this week. Loved the matchup. Addison dropped a would-be 62-yard touchdown right away. I think it was a second drive. That would have been nice in the box score, but it was brutal. It was ugly. It was bad. The final drive, McCarthy turned it on, but I think he had 0 rush attempts. That's what I was banking on in fantasy. And I know he's young and he missed all of last year, but I mean, is it time? When McCarthy looked like a bust to you? Because I mean, it's brutal. It's bad.
I guess I would never say. I mean, I would just never say that a quarterback is a bust in his first season of like actual regular season play. That's a little far for me. I mean, it did look bad. He's at the stage now that Caleb was at last year, where like when his receivers drop passes, it's just so crushing because you also can't guarantee that the next pass is going to hit him in the numbers, right? Like, I mean, he was pretty wild. Like he sailed a whole bunch of throws. That's for various reasons. I'm behind on my normal work week, and I haven't watched start to finish all the games that I normally would by this point on a Monday. But obviously, being a Meathead Bears fan, I saw every snap of that game, and McCarthy was rough. Like a lot of the incompletions are, there was a completion there to be had, and he sailed a throw. So that was pretty ugly. And then it just crushes you when there's like a legitimately well thrown ball and a drop. But I don't know. I'm not gonna. He's still very young. Like he was drafted young. Bo Nix is like a generation older than JJ McCarthy. So I don't want to give up on players like that. Everybody I think kind of knows the rough contours of his story. Winner at every level, all that stuff. Coaches love him. Seems a little weird, but whatever. I think he might be fine down the road, but it's the NFL and you only get so long a leash. And it's not like he was the top overall pick in the draft or anything like that. So we'll see. I wouldn't completely give up on him, but obviously some of the receivers are frustrated. Jefferson is frustrated. We can hope there are going to be better days. It's never as bad as it seems in like a player's worst moment. It's obviously never as good as it seems in their best moments.
Yeah, Bust is way too harsh, and obviously you said he's young, and we've seen so many quarterbacks resurrect their careers lately on different teams many years later. But it's just safe to say he is disappointed given the Kevin O'Connell system, the fact he runs too, doesn't look like he's the fantasy asset we're hoping for. And more importantly, it's clear he's not ready to help now. And Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison and TJ Hawkinson are all going to fail to live up to their ADPs. It's a downgrade from Carson Wentz. And that much is just, it's clear. And I wouldn't expect that to change much over the course of this season.
That would be the really frustrating thing if you're a Vikings fan, right? That offense is just ready-made for success, and everybody's a vet. Nobody gets better from here. Nobody is like some ascending young player on exactly the same timeline as McCarthy. You got freaking Aaron Jones, Justin Jefferson is not an old player by any means, but man, like you plug a replacement level veteran quarterback in there, and it's a really good team. That could get to 35 against any opponent in any week, but they don't.
Nick Mullins is putting up 400 yards in this system. I mean, I just thought that McCarthy didn't have to be great.
CJ Beathard would be putting up 450.
Yeah, no. I've added Max Brosmer in a deep dynasty superflex league, just sitting there because who knows if McCarthy always gets injured.
They might find another injury for him.
Yeah. But they'd probably go find another quarterback is what they would do if they had to. But Brosmer has actually been a little buzz. So if you're in a deep superflex dynasty, might as well stash him.
I'm just going to throw this one on the board now. Do we see Chicago is using Monangai for short yardage and goal line work? Yeah, I do. I don't know if it's going to be every carry inside the 5 or inside the 10, but I can tell you just locally, like listening to Bears press conferences, anytime a coach talks about Kyle Monangai, they describe him exactly as you would just a prototypical goal line runner, right? Like they love his toughness. He never loses yards. He's good in traffic. He'll just sort of burrow his way to 1 or 2 yards when there's nothing else there. They always describe him that way. They always describe him in terms of physicality, and those are just code words basically for short yardage and goal line. So I would be surprised if he does not settle in as not the exclusive goal line runner, but the primary goal line runner certainly.
I've actually changed my tune on the Chicago backfield slightly since last week when we talked. I'm curious your opinion. I think there is some merit to the hot hand situation, and it's not necessarily going to be Swift 60-40. Do you think there is? Because that's what the coaches have said. And looking at their usage that first week when Swift came back, it looked like he was a clear guy, but there was something to, maybe it was because he was performing better. I don't know. Is there something to a hot hand? And you could see a game where Monangai does get, 18 carries and Swift 10, and suddenly thinks it'll be a switch, but really it's just he is looking at who's ever performing in that week.
Yeah, part of the reason I feel that might be right is because Ben Johnson hasn't done a lot of like normal coach speak lying this year. He was weirdly candid in the preseason, and he seemed to mean everything he said, and he seems to follow through on a lot of what he says. So like when he talks about a hot hand situation, I take it as pretty legitimate. He doesn't just throw around a lot of, for somebody who says some really trite, corny things occasionally, he doesn't just throw around cliches and just try to deflect. I think he'll get there someday, because like that's probably what you should do as a head coach. You shouldn't, why give anybody any information that they don't need. So I think he'll get there, but right now he's actually unusually honest. So when they talk about a backfield becoming a hot hand situation, I think that's legitimate. So can I see a scenario where, like, if Kyle Monangai breaks off a 15-yard run and then an 8-yard run and then a 10-yard run against Green Bay, that he ends up with 24 carries? Yeah, absolutely. That it feels like it's going to flow that way. But also, DeAndre Swift is just a good player. I'm not going to call him an elite player. I don't think he's like a super special player, but he's really good. And I think the default is going to be that he's the primary, which again doesn't mean 80-20. It means something like 55-45 or 60-40. Let's just hit the array of injuries this week, just because I feel like, we don't have to like do a whole laundry list of injuries absolutely every single week, but this was a big one. We had a lot of guys go down, and a lot of guys who sort of came into the weekend who were dealing with something. So I'll do this a little bit extemporaneously. Drake London got a PCL that's going to cost him, we think, at least a week. Michael Penix, same team. He's got a knee. He's headed to IR. I don't know if that's good or bad necessarily for the Falcons. It's not like he was playing, perfectly consistent football. Kirk Cousins is going to step in. Josh Jacobs, already mentioned him. It sounds like the knee is structurally sound, so I'm not sure what is. It's something non-structural. I have no idea what's wrong with his knee, but it seems like a possibility that he's going to miss Week 12. That stinks. We'll get to the waiver wire in a little bit, because I think it's also a pretty rich week on the wire. Kamani Vidal, he had a quad injury. They don't play in Week 12, so we don't have to worry about this in the short term. And then when they come back from bye, it might just be Amari and Hampton time again. So it could be that the Kamani Vidal era has ended. You mentioned Bashal Tutin. He picked up an ankle injury, although he's interviewed, like he was doing normal press stuff after the game, which is a good sign, and told a reporter that he thought he was good. So it doesn't seem like that's going to be a lingering issue. We'll see if it cost him a week. It looked like a pretty significant ankle issue in real time, but again, after the game, he said he was good. Jaylen Warren also picked up an ankle. Aaron Rodgers possibly has a fractured non-throwing wrist/hand suffered in the same game. As of the last time I checked, he hadn't actually been ruled out for the Bears game in Week 12, so we'll see where that goes. Dylan Gabriel concussed, which led to some Shedeur Sanders, which wasn't great. We'll see what it looks like if and when Shedeur Sanders actually gets a full week of prep. I don't want to write him off just yet, but it did not look good. Calvin Ridley, fractured fibula. He's out for the season. What else? Amari DiMercato, he's got an ankle. Lane Johnson's got a foot. That's bad. CJ Stroud and Jackson Dart remain in the concussion protocol. I don't know. What did I miss, Dalton?
A lot to go through there. I had Warren and Jacobs in my main DFS lineup this week. That wasn't fun. Jacobs just a wait and see situation. If Jacobs is going to miss time, empty the clip situation for Wilson, obviously not as good, but that team just wants to run the ball, and he's the clear back. It's this being overlooked too, not really being stashed in many leagues, widely available. Obviously, it just depends on the severity of Jacobs' injury.
I gotta say, I didn't put Wilson in the class of handcuffs where like you gotta get him, because I didn't think it was totally clear that he was going to be the absolute full-time Josh Jacobs replacement, but he was. I don't think it looked that interesting. I don't think it looked special. I'm not dying to see more Emmanuel Wilson, but he was definitely used as the full replacement.
And Tutin was really opening eyes before the injury. He had more carries at halftime than Etienne, who scored twice, and he got a Wildcat TD there. They just ran like crazy. A volume helped the numbers there, but Tutin really is someone to that got your attention. Before he was just kind of a stash waiting there, but now if he's healthy, definitely a guy who could be impactful in the fantasy playoffs. And one thing I would like to disagree with you on is, I hate to do it, but the Falcon situation, I think, does dramatically decline here. I mean, Penix had his issues, but Cousins was abysmal. I mean, London had 108 yards at halftime, and then he had 11 yards with Cousins afterward. Bijan Robinson, who, by the way, I wrote two things in the Athletic article. One about Bijan losing the goal line role. He didn't have a carry inside the 5 since week 1, had 2 goal line touchdowns in the first half. I also wrote that Bryce Young is finished as a starter, and then he proceeds to throw for 450 yards in a career game. But the reverse jinx, as I told you, Andy, it's well strong. It's strong in the Dalton household. But where was I? Bijan, not that just the 2 touchdowns, but he had also 11 yards after halftime, like London. I mean, it was bad. If Cousins 3.4 YPA, if you're into completion percentage over expected, it was the first percentile. Now, sometimes you can he can go into practice for the week. He come in the middle of the game was bad, but they were at home against the Panthers. He looked bad his earlier action this season. There was hope that he recovered further from the Achilles this year. Doesn't look the case. I think Atlanta's offense is in trouble. Obviously, London's now sidelined with the PCL problem. So that's a problem. It's a downgrade for Bijan. I mean, obviously, he's an RB1 still, but it's a downgrade. Huge hit for London, even when he returns. Kirk Cousins looks like, bottom 3 type level quarterback production.
To be clear, I'll give some grace to Shedeur Sanders for not having a week of prep to be a starter and to be at the controls of that offense. I will not give the same to Kirk Cousins, who is a million years old and has played a lot of football and knows the drill and certainly should have been ready and was obviously playing behind somebody who was had been previously injured. So I don't you're absolutely right to call that out on Cousins. Let's talk waiver wire a little bit, because I feel like the flip side of a week with all these injuries is often that the waiver wire is super interesting, and this feels like a week of critical decisions, right? Because there are situations like Sean Tucker going off, but nobody knows if he's really going to have any value going forward. Like, there's big decisions at running back, and there might be some landmines out there, right? The way I wrote them up, I think I like Chris Rodriguez best from everybody who's widely available this week, and I know he doesn't play in week 12, so if you need immediate help, he's not your guy. That guy sure seems like the featured runner for the Commanders. I don't think he's going to be the only runner for the Commanders. And they've done this weird thing all year where it's almost like in Major League Baseball where they have like a piggyback starter, right? Like, somebody will start and play 2 series, and then Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt comes on and he plays a bunch. It wasn't exactly like that though on Sunday. Chris Rodriguez, was dominating workload. Curiously pivoted away from him late, but he's not hurt. Again, I felt like he out-touched everybody. I think he outplayed everybody. He's clearly the guy that they like at the goal line. However, you mentioned Bashal Tutin. That guy looked awesome. Like, you can see he's a combine superhero, right? 4.3 speed, 40+ inch vertical. And I feel like he puts that athleticism into a package that isn't, normally you'd see, running back with 4.3 speed. I bet he tries to bounce everything outside. Well, he runs between the tackles all the time. It was a lot of tough running for Bashal Tutin, and he is just incredibly explosive. And then he hits you in the hole and you move back 2-3 yards. So I thought he was just on some pretty ordinary bread and butter 4-yard carries. I thought he was really impressive. And then he was obviously good near the goal line when he just sort of bowled his way through a couple of Chargers. So I thought he was really good. So I feel like there's a Tutin, Rodriguez, Sean Tucker choice out there. Again, to me, it doesn't sound like the Emmanuel Wilson thing will be long-lived. You do kind of, we've now had this little fire drill with Josh Jacobs, and I think if you have him, now you have a pretty clear answer that Wilson is the absolute backup that you want to own, and it's not necessarily going to be, some sort of committee behind Jacobs, so I get that. I don't know. How do you prioritize the running backs?
Before I get to the backside, just one more thought on the injured players because I came across an interesting stat. The only 2 games where the Houston Texans have had 200 catchable air yards have been with Mills, and Nico Collins has been resurrected. Yeah. So that's just an interesting thing to look at there with Stroud. He
Mills
may not
played
be
well.
So certainly for fantasy, he's helped. Yeah. But so that's just an interesting thing there. Another situation we're looking at, like the Brissett, Kyler Murray might be going on in Houston there. Running backs, I don't disagree with anything you said. Chris Rodriguez impressed in that game's early Sunday morning. One interesting note about that game too is everyone figured that was a great matchup. The Dolphins had very quietly they were last in EPA per rush the first 8 weeks, and they were like first the 5 going into that. They had really, really improved their run defense, and he looked good against them. And he was named the starter, I think, the week before, but people may not have realized it because he left banged up, or his workload would have been bigger. So I'm with you there. Less upside though in the Washington offense with Mariota, So if Wilson takes over for Jacob,
they do get Dallas week 17.
I saw that.
And maybe that's not as exciting as it was before the trade deadline, but my God, that's been a good matchup all year.
Yeah, 100%. But then they also get the Broncos, Vikings, and Eagles. How good is that Eagles defense? It looks pretty tough after the additions they got. So just comes down to Jacobs' injury status for me there. And then Tootin, you said it looks like MJD out there. Looks great, but another guy we're waiting for not only his injury, but it probably would take an ETN injury for him to fully break out, given the fact that Jacksonville's offense, is only going to produce so much.
Yeah, so the problem with Sean Tucker, of course, is that Bucky Irving actually returned to like a limited practice last week, so he can't be far off. I don't know if it's going to be week 12, but it's going to be really soon. And then presumably, and then we're just guessing. Then we're just guessing at, are they bringing Bucky Irving back at 100%? Are they giving him his full usage pre-injury? Are they rotating in? Does it become a 3-headed committee, which is terrible? It might. I don't know. I can't rule that out. They seem to like Rachaad White. I don't think Rachaad White has been bad. I think he has met expectations roughly. I thought, some of what Sean Tucker accomplished on Sunday was not like unique to Sean Tucker's skill set, and Rachaad White probably could have got there in the same situations, but it matters that he did it. He was great, 3 touchdown game. I don't know anybody that actually I do. I feel like maybe Brad Evans started me against him in the Kings Classic. Maybe I'm making that up. I'm not sure. A few people desperately started Sean Tucker, but I'm not sure how many people proactively started him. I had him on benches.
Yeah, he had entered last week with negative receiving yards, but he got involved there. He totally took over the workload in the second half. Like, they saw the effectiveness and they just turned it to him. Tucker would be my easily number 1 waiver. I mean, without a question, if Bucky Irving were out for the season. But as you painted the picture, it's going to be probably messy. But any competitive league, Tucker has to obviously be stashed at this point. I mean, to see what happens, because man, he could be a league winner if he did take over that role.
And then I also want to mention the wide receivers briefly. Choose your fighter, Christian Watson or Michael Wilson.
Ooh, that's a good one. I will go Wilson as long as Harrison is out, with the way Brissett is feeding him the ball. But man, I was on Watson last week, wrote him up in the DFS column, and then like a coward backed off him with Dobbs healthy and Golden, and they're all getting healthier, and the weather and all that. But 2 touchdown catches. He's the guy with the most upside in the Green Bay receivers. I mean, Dobbs will have the higher floor. He'll be ranked higher on a given weekly, but Watson's a guy that could spike week every other, and he's every now and then, and he's looked so good coming back from that knee injury.
Okay, so talk through that just for a second. I generally, what I will do in ranks, and this, by the way, if anybody is watching who actually does this for a living, this would not serve you well in the Fantasy Pros contest or anything like that, but like, the guy who is playing a lot and I think has the higher upside is almost always the guy that I'm going to rank higher. So I'm going to consistently have Christian Watson higher than Romeo Doubs, recognizing that they'll probably feed Dobbs a few more targets. I don't see them as players of like necessarily comparable skill sets. When Christian Watson has a big game, it's a 2 or 3 touchdown game, and it's splash plays, and the other games are 4 for 40. I get it. But in that terrible middle ground of wide receivers, I'm really only interested in the guys who I think can blow up in a given week. And again, it's a terrible way to rank if you want to perform well in the accuracy competitions, but I'm a million years old. I don't care about that anymore. I'm interested in the guys who can actually blow up. So like, how do you express that in your ranks? You're a good ranker. You're a certified ranker. Like, I always find it to be a difficult thing to communicate to people via ranks, which is why ranks are kind of a blunt, terrible tool.
Hey, I'm trying to do the ranking game and get our name out there for the Deep Shot here, Andy.
You should. You absolutely should. I'm not even trying to trash overall. That. Like, I completely understand people ranking for like 50th percentile outcomes. I get it. It's just, I don't know. I feel like I was trained a little bit by Brad Evans to like, when you, I don't know, when you have an inkling about a player, just freaking go for it.
Yeah, no. I'm all upside. You know that. That's how I draft and that's how I rank. Yeah, I was fifth overall entering last week, and I think I had a very poor week this one. So I can brag now before it falls off. I'm not. We'll see, but finish first a week. One of those will go. But just for reference, I brought up the rankings for this week, and it's only a handful of people, but so far the consensus was have Dobbs a couple spots behind Watson. So they've already caught up, and yep, Watson's going to be the guy moving forward in Green Bay, and I have no argument there, and that's what I would have leaned as well. As I said, yes. So I'm with you, Watson over Dobbs, and Michael Wilson. Man, it's crazy that came out of nowhere
targets.
Because I mean, 18, the most completions in NFL history by Brissett. Wild game. Garbage time has helped them out back-to-back weeks. But yeah, as long as Harrison's sidelined, I mean, with Brissett throwing him the ball, and they can't run the ball, that team. So it's just a great setup for McBride to be a top 10 fantasy player, and Wilson to be like Wilson. Wilson's his ECR rank was a wide receiver 24, and I moved him up to the wide receiver 19, and Jacksonville's a pass funnel. So yeah, right now he's a top 20 receiver for me this week if Harrison remains sidelined.
That game, the record-setting Jacoby Brissett game, which I have not yet watched through in its entirety, that's not a reflection of anything that like San Francisco was doing or not doing, right? That was just game situation, and we're chucking it.
Yeah, it was a game situation. Well, the Niners are banged up defense. They lost even their linebacker that were, the replace, so the play caller, they lost him mid-game. But it was a weird game that was a weird special teams. I mean, that it had to be wonder if it was the first game in NFL history that the first play from scrimmage was a 1-yard touchdown run by McCaffrey. I mean, that was
wild.
Yeah,
a kickoff getting tackled at the 1 is crazy.
Yeah, they kept having short fields, and it was bizarre. And the Cardinals also had a 62-yard Bam Knight touchdown run called back by penalty. And Brissett had a touchdown pass, but Elijah Higgins fumbled it like an inch before crossing the end zone. So it was this game script and volume. And Brissett is, he's making the chains move and doing that more than Murray. So let's give him actually a little credit. I know it's garbage time and not helping his team win, but he's paying the fantasy bills, and it's great. I mean, McBride, I mean, he is just a monster. I mean, his DFS price can't get high enough.
Yeah, and again, McBride is the guy who gets the Cincinnati defense in championship week. So, if you're interested in buying high on players ahead of your league's trade deadline, I don't know. That's a guy who interests me. I'm going to start throwing a handful of chat comments up. I'm sorry, I've been I haven't been attentive to it. Yeah, Morgan, Luther Burden breakout game, week 12, could very well happen. Pittsburgh seems a little bit more formidable, a little friskier lately. So I don't want to say that it's going to be some explosive Bears offense this week. People, I think, already understand that Caleb has absolutely detonated in the friendliest possible matchups, and he's kind of game manager-ish in all the other matchups. Not really a special fantasy quarterback. Also, Ben Johnson's made it perfectly clear that if he can win a game by running the ball, he's happy to do it. I thought like the game plan that you got against the Saints, where they just ran them to death. They'd love to do that every week. So for a receiving core that has as many names as they do, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be that exciting rest of season. They do have they have a really tough schedule from this point forward, but again, the point with Burden is the playing time is absolutely flipped with Zacchaeus. He was on the field a lot. This is 2 weeks in a row that he's been on the field basically over, I think it was 44% of the snaps. This last game, it was nearly 50 the week before. So Burden's got a job now. Like all the Burden dreams that you had in the preseason are now finally coming to fruition. This I've been sitting on in chat. It's crazy. This is a wild thing to spit out into the world, Steven. This is insane. Did Bo Nix pass Mahomes for MVP frontrunner? Ain't nobody giving the MVP to Bo Nix. Whatever. They're a fun story. It's a great defense. Bo Nix can make some throws. Bo Nix is not in the MVP conversation. I don't know. Is he in the MVP conversation? He should not be in the MVP conversation. I can't believe that we're discussing.
They have the NFL's best record and the most punts, or at least they did entering last week. I haven't checked. They had 4 more, so I still think they do, and they haven't had a bye. But for the most punts in the league, it's crazy what they're doing. All the fourth quarter comebacks, the game-winning drives, and they're almost running as pure as your Bears, Andy, who are
really are.
7-3, and they faced one team with the winning record and lost in those 10 games. And they get Mason Rudolph this week, probably, with Aaron Rodgers dealing with the fractured left wrist. So running pure, man.
I mean, people want Aaron. I don't know. I want Aaron Rodgers. I'd love that. I don't know. I know I shouldn't, but I feel a certain level of security with this Bears team. They're not. It's not a good defense, and I think all the turnovers are simply covering up. But that's not. I don't think that's going to stick. They give up chunk plays like crazy. They still commit too many penalties, but they have corrected a little bit. We're not as brutally penalized as we were early in the year.
You know what? Defense is very similar. They were getting by on turnovers, but otherwise it was like, if you looked at the nerd numbers underneath, it wasn't good. And then since the turnovers dried up, they have been one of the worst defenses in the league. That was Jacksonville until Joe Alt left. Joe Alt's like the best player in the NFL, apparently. It's crazy,
right? Yeah.
But yeah, that was as ugly as it gets, the Chargers. And again, that was facing a pass funnel that had been a dream matchup of late.
Brutal way to go into a bye. Here's a less insane comment from Steven, hoping Aaron Jones makes a late season breakout. It's possible. Jordan Mason still didn't touch the ball that much. He did find the end zone on Sunday, but that's not really a committee anymore. In my opinion.
Was a McCarthy problem, or it will be too. But that's all that happened there. Jones is the guy there. He's a great player, and we just need a quarterback to be competent.
Let's see. OTG 14 team standard TD emphasized for bench because TDs are emphasized. Does that make running backs more valuable season long? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, standard running backs are definitely more valuable than standard, 100%. Yeah, without question.
Yeah. I mean, I was tempted to dive into a monologue on PPR scoring. PPR scoring's silly. It's I don't know why. I mean, I do know why we do it. I know how it came into being and all that. I won't give you a lecture on it. But it's people like to cling to it because, receptions are a little bit more predictable than a lot of the other things involved in fantasy football. But a reception for its own sake has no intrinsic value, should not be involved in fantasy, in my opinion, in any way. But again, I won't.
Are you a fan of the Ian Hartitz tweets that he does? And he says just a couple of guys getting one fantasy point, and he'll show a running back like break, 8 tackles to get 10 yards, and then another guy fall down.
I retweeted the one with Ashton Genty the other day. I don't even remember who the receiver was. It might have been Wandale catching like a 2-yard pass or something like that. It always sticks in my mind. I think Burden had a reception for like negative yardage this past weekend, and that's 0.7 fantasy. I mean, that's just stupid. That's just stupid. It's an insane scoring format that had its purpose back in the day, way back in the day. People think it's this modern thing. It's like 25 years old. It was our answer to the fact that like we were just drafting running backs in the first round and the second round, and drafts had gotten boring. That's what it was. Anyway, I'll stop.
It kind of helps even things out in Superflex, because the quarterback would be more valuable. But I hear you. I hear the argument. But are you okay with half PPR? Yeah, that's
not
what
really. It's just
you'd rather zero. You're old.
Yeah,
you're
like
old.
why do we have to compromise with a terrible idea? I don't. Half bad is still pretty bad.
You want to add another kicker, is what you want to do. 2 kickers.
Okay, let's have that conversation. I'll draft a 2 kicker league. I'll put kickers in the flex. I love that stuff. I love don't get me wrong. I'm not like advocating for standard scoring. I love first down scoring. I think we should have that.
Right.
That is a real verifiable like benefit in actual football. Anyway, people have questions. They don't need to hear an old man rant.
We can talk kickers. Niners kicker has made every field goal this season, and it's 4 extra point misses. That's fine.
I'm riding him in like 4 fantasy leagues.
Well, unfortunately for you, he pulled his hammy and he's week to week. So
damn it, Morgan. This is terrible. Yeah, neighbors in London. That is sad. Let's talk about him. Benson. The first place Chicago Bears, mentioned him earlier. Yeah. How about 7-3? How about alone in first place? It is, it's a challenging schedule coming up, but it's not, once you get to 7-3, shoot, we got to find 3 more wins. We got to find 3 more wins. We're in the playoffs. And it's just dumb luck if you don't make it with 10 wins, right? Like, and 10 wins is just a verifiably good season. How are we feeling about the Niners, by the way?
Niners are going to try to make the playoffs, but man, they're the two best teams in the NFL might be in their own division. I mean, the Seahawks and Rams, tough. Eagles are probably still actually would be my pick. I think it's going to be Eagles and Chiefs. Everyone's down on the Chiefs. I'm going to look at. I'm curious how far if their odds have fallen much, but I still think the Chiefs and Eagles is going to would be my picks. Niners. Schedule is going to help, but so many injuries. Great to see Purdy back and healthy. I thought he was going to be dealing with that. I mean, probably still will re-injure it, but he looked so different than when we last saw him try to play through it. So that was encouraging, but that defense is not championship caliber.
Dalton, this live stream is going to be so tense in week 17, or actually week 16 heading into week 17 when we're staring down the barrel of Niners Bears, and it's meaningful to both teams.
I know. Sunday night game. I know that'll be a good one. I can't wait. Hopefully they're still in contention.
Love this comment by Benson. Yes. I think the most likely Super Bowl at this point is actually Bears Patriots. I think everyone would agree. I think that's what the analytics show.
Patriots, what else do we got here? We're good.
Advised by you two wonderful gentlemen not to drop Pollard for Wilson 2 weeks ago. That was probably mostly me. Honestly, that was probably me banging the table and saying, no, I don't really think Emmanuel Wilson is anything good, and I don't know that he's the obvious handcuff. And it turns out, yes, he is the screaming obvious handcuff. I still don't know if he's good, but he's going to get another game, and he did find the end zone. That was really annoying. That's a bad call by me.
For that. Apologies.
Yeah. Atlanta turned Bryce Young into Steve Young. What the hell? What is Atlanta? Either side of the ball, because Atlanta, I don't know, deep into the season has been the top-ranked pass defense in the league, and then just gave up 400 to Bryce Young, who I don't know. I'm with you. I don't think Bryce Young is any good. I had a little bit of hope for him coming off the that 5-6 game run at the end of last season, but I don't know. He hasn't been anything special until he gets a hold of the league's #1 pass defense, and then he put up a number. Great game for McMillan too, by the way.
My only thought there would be two things. Atlanta didn't opt for a bye, and they just played right in wherever foreign country because the Colts had it off, and they just gave up a bazillion rushing yards to Jonathan Taylor, so they were tired and overcompensated against the run and shut down Dowdle, and boy, that opened up. But boy, I did not see that coming with Bryce Young. Good for Tet, man. All he needs is just a quarterback, and he's going to be a monster. He's the real deal.
This is a good question. Now, I'm glad that Steven got that insane Bo Nix talk out of his system. Would you rather have Purdy or Danny Dimes rest of season? I have Herbert. He's getting beat up behind that line. Need a backup.
Great question. I mean, if Purdy did not run, but he didn't act injured, but because he can do a sneaky run like Dimes. So, oh man, that's tough. I think the Colts run the ball like crazy. The Niners defense is bad. I'm going to go Purdy here, but I don't feel strongly. I'll look at my rest of season ranks later today. I think most people would probably say Daniel Jones, but they'll be ranked right next to each other. I don't feel strongly here.
Yeah, that's how I feel as well. How do we feel about Ricky Pearsall rest of season? I've seen some talk that the knee is just going to be bothering him for the rest of the year. I don't know if it's one of those situations that ends in surgery eventually, but there was some talk. I don't know. He was hyping himself up during the practice week, and then he was almost a bystander during the game.
Couple things. He got open for it. Should have been a touchdown, but the coverage broke. So he's not out there just limping around. 84% of the snaps. That said, the telecast kind of went out of its way and reported that he told them that it's going to be a problem all year. He thinks he can manage it. Honestly, if you heard the way they were talking about it, you'd be discouraged. I said in the game recaps, with this new information, I will have Jennings over Pearsall rest of season. I don't think it's going to be a smooth ride, unfortunately. But so yeah, I would say
that stuff again was based on a conversation with the player, right?
Right. That's what I'm saying. It seemed revealing, and just the fact when it happened, how it was loose bodies in there or whatever. Not overly optimistic, but I mean, he's probably going to be ranked as a wide receiver 3 this week, and it'll be tough not to given the alternatives. But I would be more encouraged about Jennings.
Yeah, this is a really good note from.
Did you pick Purdy or Dimes? Come on, we got to give an answer here.
Oh, I didn't pick
Purdy.
I want to help people, but I was going to say I have a slight lean to Danny Dimes.
It's okay.
I feel
I think that's.
I feel like I'm getting a little more rushing juice there, and I know that Purdy has it, But
he might not with the toe for sure.
Right, exactly. That's kind of the deciding factor for me. But it's very close, and I agree with you. Like we're talking about QBs 11 and 12 or something like that.
Yep.
This is not a huge distinction for me. This is a good note from Morgan. And if I were a better producer of this show, I would have put it up when we were actually talking about Michael Wilson. But yeah, like I know that Wilson was always like a Matt Harmon, like, sneaky favorite too. So I think Wilson is good. And now that I don't know. I don't think he's superstar good, but apparently Jacoby Brissett found him to be 18 target good. That's crazy on a day when he put the ball in the air almost 60 times. But yeah, I mean, we feel really good about Wilson and McBride going forward. Dortch,
they also
too,
committed 8. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say Dortch had a little action too and found the end zone.
Yes, he produced exactly 3 guys. He produced obviously 47 pass attempts will help that, but the Cardinals had 18 penalties and 11 at halftime. It was crazy. It was like that also contributed in a really weird game. But Brissett has just been so helpful there, and Michael Wilson looked the part too. It wasn't just he took over the role, like he was out there making plays. He looked good, and he almost had another 50-yard catch that was really close, broken up at the last minute, or he would have even a bigger game. Don't be the lack of touchdown won't put him over the top in fantasy, but man, he was just so impressive.
Yeah, without a touchdown, I think finished as like a top 2, top 3 receiver, right? Which you just don't see very often.
Such a weird week. That Jordan Love threw for like 170 yards, 2 touchdowns, and no rush yards, and he was the QB 7 on the week. I mean, it took nothing to get it done.
Yeah, no, crazy week, crazy low. Well, it's because Josh Allen hogged all the points is what happened. Right. This is another good question by Steven. And I imagine that other people are dealing with something like this. He has Jacobs and ETN, doesn't know which handcuff to go for on waivers. Well, okay, this one I feel like I can answer for you. And assuming that, maybe we get a little bit more news on Bashal Tutin tomorrow. If Bashal Tutin is really like good, and even if he missed a week, I'd still go for Bashal Tutin, because that almost seemed like a changing of the guard. Like that ain't happening in Green Bay. Like what the information that we have right now seems like maybe Josh Jacobs misses a week, and whatever, it's an injury. It could drag out longer than that, but it doesn't seem that severe. Tutin might have actually like leapfrogged Travis Etienne. That's the way it looked in the first half of that game pre-injury. Tutin was getting a lot of run, and I thought looked awesome. So he would actually, again, assuming that it's not a significant injury, he would be my priority there.
Yeah, hopefully we get more information by tomorrow night when maybe your waivers are running, because not only Tutin but Jacobs. We think he's going to be okay, but it's not certain yet. Hopefully we get an MRI result by tomorrow night, and that'll clear everything up. A lot of MRIs due Monday. I wrote the word MRI on Monday like 6 times in the column. I'm serious. It's crazy, and that's not even counting the guys that were 2 injured like Penix. But I mean, so many MRIs due on Monday. It's and that's not even counting Chase missing next week because of a suspension. Frustrating.
Yeah. Xavier Worthy or Deebo Samuel rest of season standard league. No bonus points for receptions here.
Deebo for me. He finally had a big game this week, and Xavier Worthy is droppable in some formats. I mean, it's bad. He should have had about a 70-yard touchdown, and he was open, and Mahomes missed him. But Mahomes always misses them on these deep ones, and Rice is the hog there. Worthy will have a spike week. I'm almost sure of it from here on out, but Deebo easily for me in standard.
Xavier Worthy or Christian Watson? I'm just making up questions for you.
Watson.
I kind of feel that way too.
Yeah, I'm down on Worthy. I
do feel a little bit now, like, I don't know. Once you go like 3-4 weeks, Xavier Worthy might be like a 10-team league drop if you needed to.
It might be the ankle, it might be the shoulder harness, whatever it is. That it's not working this year.
There's a good note from Morgan too. Early claim for Yoshivas with the Chase suspension. Yeah, that's the. I'm gonna have to add him to the pickups column, because that is probably gonna be the name, at least for a week. We probably get one more week with Joe Flacco. I don't know. What do you do if you're the Bengals? Like you need to win some of these games. Like I don't know. As fun as Flacco has been, if they're not getting wins, are we rushing Joe Burrow back, or do we just have to, like, if Joe Burrow wants to play Thanksgiving?
That's what I was gonna say.
And it sounds like Joe Burrow wants to play Thanksgiving that week. Like we got to let him play, right?
Yeah, I think you said it exactly. If he wants to play, he's playing. And as far as Yoshi, people could even talk themselves into this week. Christian Gonzalez shadowing T. Higgins and opening. I could see that now. And more importantly in that matchup is, can you just rest that toe one more week, Stevenson? Give Henderson a matchup against the Bengals, please.
Yeah, I mean, do you kind of feel the same way? Like, I don't know. I hate to even talk about it because the Henderson people get so mad. But like, I think when Ramondre is ready to play, I'm not saying it's going to look exactly like it did before, but he's going to play a lot.
I know.
He's gonna come back and he's going to see at least 40.
He's going to see all of it. I know. Henderson's early expert consensus rank is the RB6 right now, and that's going to be that'll age poorly if Stevenson's back this week for sure. I mean, that'll change dramatically.
Like I didn't, 2 weeks ago, the 2 long touchdowns for Henderson, I thought his speed was really impressive, but I didn't think that otherwise it was a particularly like, oh wow, we gotta find more carries for this guy kind of game. But he was really good. Again, against a Jets defense, kind of a shell of itself. But I thought he was really good this last week, and there were, he was pushing piles. He was running between the tackles. It was the first evidence that he can be an effective between the tackles runner. And I think that's like, those are boxes you got to check if you're ever going to be a featured runner in the NFL. So I thought it was a really good step for him. But I just also think that when Stevenson comes back, he's going to play a ton.
Unfortunately, I agree with you. Vrabel likes him, and still the pass protection issue. And I mean, it's still a goal line issue for sure. So yeah, that's going to become a committee.
I agree with this. I think Stafford is the front runner. I don't think anybody's won it. I don't think it's the end of the conversation. And I mean, you know how the NFL goes. Like the guy who is the front runner in November, I don't know. Media likes to change the narrative enough that there's gonna be some good team that goes on a 5-game win streak, and then that team's quarterback is gonna be the front runner. Like Daniel Jones could still become the front runner in the MVP conversation if they rattle off a bunch of wins. Darnold could rattle off a bunch of wins.
I was just going to say our guy Darnold took a hit, though.
He did. Yeah, he did. But like, I don't know, Mahomes can drag the Chiefs into the playoffs, and I don't know, like the MVP is not decided. It usually
comes from a top seed in a conference, a quarterback. And so I'm thinking May or Stafford are definitely looking like the favorites. Stafford just out of control what he's doing, man. And I faded him hard. One of my most fades is because of that back injury, but it gives hope to us all.
I do think if it's close between Stafford and May, they're gonna give it to the old man.
Yeah.
Which would be like the final thing that I don't know. I actually thought that Matthew Stafford should I don't know. I thought he'd put himself in the Hall of Fame before he won the Super Bowl, and I thought the Super Bowl clinched it. An MVP would like double clinch it, though. I agree with this too. It should be Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, it should be Jonathan Taylor. That's just never going to happen again. I don't know what it's going to take for.
If you compare his numbers right now to who last running back was Adrian Peterson, right? His MVP season, it's hilarious. They're all pretty equal. Only Taylor has like 10 more touchdowns. The year that
insane.
It's something like that. Yeah.
Is it 5 3-touchdown games?
Yeah, half of his games he played 10 games. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah,
I mean that's crazy. That is, I think we said it before. That is Priest Holmes stuff. That is insane.
But you're right. I don't think he will. I mean, it has become a quarterback award. That said, the market. Last I looked, it has been a week or two. Taylor was definitely like he was the 3rd or 4th. So maybe things are changing.
Not to, old man rant again. I don't want to do that. But the thing that annoys me about the quarterbacks only winning the MVP is that sometimes it is legitimately a like there's a difference of opinion over which of like 3 quarterbacks it should be. And when we get into situations like that, where no one quarterback has distinguished himself in such a clear way, that's when I think the door should swing open to other positions. And if somebody is having a historic year, like, I don't know, but all due respect to Benson, I don't think that Matthew Stafford has clinched the MVP yet. And I think if we reach a point, late in the year where we're like, I don't know, maybe it's Mahomes and maybe it's Stafford, maybe it's May. That tells you that we don't have a clear quarterback who is head and shoulders above the rest of the league. And maybe it should be open to the running back that's having the absolutely historic outlier season. I don't know. I hate that other positions are excluded. I don't want to go back to like the 80s when Mark Mosley, when the Washington kicker could win an MVP. I don't think we should go back there. I'm not that much of a kicker advocate, but I do think other positions should be eligible for it.
I'm voting Joe Alt.
Hell yeah. Well, shoot. I mean, I don't know if that's really the version of the Chargers that I don't think it will be after the bye, but my God, he was certainly a lot more valuable than any of us gave him credit for. JJ McCarthy being 45th in EPA per dropback is an insane stat for consensus.
I guess he's like off the charts. Barrett was tweeting about like his hero throws. Like he's just he's very just going deep. I know his ADOT was super high. So I guess he's just, I mean, you watched that game more than I did. And
that's a very common young quarterback thing too, right? Like, you wait for things to develop. You're in the pocket forever. I mean, that was a Caleb thing. That was a Justin Fields thing. Caleb right now, I think 3.5 seconds to throw in this last game. And then you end up going to, those guys go deep a lot. It happens. I will say it was my favorite thing watching JJ McCarthy as a prospect though, were those like deep seam throws to Loveland. Everything that was deep looked really good. All the deep middle throws looked great. It's a lot of these just, the problem is a lot of these bread and butter NFL throws, outbreaking routes that it's a small window near the sideline, and you have to be like 90% on those throws, right? And you have to be on time. He's sailing a bunch of those, and he throws a bunch that are like 8 feet over the head of his receiver. I mean, they're just not close. So what I'm saying is it's probably something more than processing. It's probably mechanical too. And there's just a lot of coaching to do in the off season. That there's no way that gets better, dramatically better within the context of a season, I would imagine.
And the worse he plays, the more the quiet benching, has validity too.
Right. If Seattle faces the Rams in the playoffs, they have to start right now. No, probably no. That's probably no there.
How good is Seattle's defense, man? I mean, that's amazing
so
to keep them in that game with 4 picks like that.
I don't have the schedule currently in front of me, but it's not a bad schedule down the stretch either. So I've got the Seattle defense in a bunch of spots.
I know you right. Totally. It's a really good schedule, I think. Yeah.
I think they have one hiccup in either week 16 or 17, but other than that, it's like you're just going to be starting them.
Yep, that's the team I've been stashing. Yeah.
What do we got here? Sorry, I'm browsing for questions.
Yeah, I would trade Pearsall for Alec Pierce up above there. He wrote Adam Pierce, but I would do that. I want Alec Pierce more than Pearsall.
Oh, hell yeah. Now that we have to actually make the choice, Alec Pierce or Michael Pittman this week, who do you have higher?
I know. So the consensus has Pittman remaining like I figured they would. Again, this is early consensus. Only sickos are ranking this early, but Pittman's still the wide receiver 20 and Pierce is the 31 early. See, we got to close that gap. I mean, at minimum, but yeah. I'll probably rank them like in between, close that gap, both, around wide receiver 25-ish kind of type stuff, I would think.
Let's talk about Keon Coleman for a second. Sneaky ad on the theory that discipline will finally get him focused. I mean, you can't, you can't miss meetings. Like, you can't be a young player missing meetings. You can't be a veteran player missing meetings. And maybe they allow the discipline to just last 1 week and he's fine and he goes back to his normal role, which wasn't particularly fruitful for fantasy. Buffalo's just weird. Like, Josh Allen has an absolutely historic day, and it didn't trickle down to anybody that anyone was starting, right? And he's like that. I mean,
you weren't starting Shavers? You didn't have Shavers?
Yeah, exactly. Didn't rank him, didn't start him. Got caught pretty unawares by the Keon Coleman thing. Got him out of one lineup. Neglected to get him out of another lineup. It didn't matter. I wasn't going to start Shavers, but like, there's, how often does a quarterback have like a 47-point fantasy week and
I know
it didn't trickle down to a single player?
That is crazy. I thought Shakir, I was bumping Shakir up at the end there in that matchup because Tampa Bay's tough against the run. Yeah, that is great. Only Allen can do that. But anyway, Keon Coleman, I don't know. I don't think he's got it. I don't think. Yeah, you're right. I don't think Keon Coleman's got it. I don't. Yeah, I don't think he's.
Yeah, one thing that always stuck with me, again, former colleague Matt Harmon, good friend Matt Harmon. I remember when Coleman came into the league, he talked about how much that profile probably needed to be a big slot, and they were definitely not going to use him there, right? Because they got nothing but slot receivers. They, Kincaid and Shakir and Curtis Samuel, and like everybody on the team was a slot receiver. So the one place where Keon Coleman was never going to play was as a big slot, but that like his prospect profile just screamed out to be used in that manner. Benson having a wonderful chat, by the way. Patriots have told us clearly they intend to use Ramondre as the money back. Yeah, I think that might be right. I think they're probably feeling a lot better about Henderson, maybe in pass pro now, better about him as a receiver. So I think we might, maybe what happens is we get the usage that maybe the Patriots had imagined in weeks 1, week 2, before they all of a sudden realized that, whoa, maybe we can't trust this guy in pass protection, and they pulled him back. Maybe we get that, but I don't know. I'd be a little bit surprised, is all I'll say, that if Travion Henderson becomes like the full featured back for that team.
I can wish cast it, but it's not happening. They would give him some targets, man. I thought he was going to be like the new Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, he's certainly bad in pass protection, even though he was known for that in college. But he had more targets last week, caught a touchdown. So that's where he can remain valuable still, with Stevenson returns.
Scott Engel dropping in, an absolute legend. Seahawks don't even.
Well, that's a great point. Yes, man. No, that's I mean, McDonald's the man. Was his only second road loss since as head coach.
Yeah.
And came in as a defense. I mean, he has the pieces that defense is legit top 3 unit in the league.
Yeah, it's also a defense that they're like top 7 or top 8 against both the run and pass, and so it's not one of those things that's like we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. They're just really good. They'll just stop everything. They're good at every level. They've been great. Really, really, really fun. Yeah, good to see Scott Engel around here. That's awesome. Two other questions here that I want to take before we go. This one, that's my bad. I'm a terrible host. I shouldn't be producing and hosting. Did we talk about tonight's game? No. I'll tell you what I need. I need George Pickens to do some. I almost dropped a swear there. I almost had to drop $1 in the swear jar. I need George Pickens to do some things. I need 20 plus points from George Pickens. I don't really care what happens to your Raiders. I don't care what happens to the rest of your Cowboys. I just need George Pickens doing stuff tonight. What do you need?
I got a lot of Cowboys this year. Dak, CD, and a whole lot of Pickens. I loved Pickens and Worthy. One was a little better than the other so far. So and even Ferguson. So I'm rooting for the Cowboys. Hopefully a higher scoring game. Odd they're playing back. Their last 2 games have been Monday nights, but coming off the bye. Hopefully Geno, I have him going in a super flex league in this matchup, and hopefully they put up some points inside here. And the longest, I was just talking to my wife about this, the longest kick she has actually has a matchup against me, and she has Aubrey, and it should come down to tonight. And when I was at the Super Bowl, the 2 longest kicks ever occurred there in Vegas. And I believe the longest kick that Little just did was in Vegas, right? So Aubrey, let's get a 75-yarder tonight, because this is apparently the best place to kick.
It does feel inevitable that he will get the record. It has not, and this has mostly been a Dallas thing. This isn't a Brandon Aubrey thing. It has not been a great fantasy year for Brandon Aubrey. I continue to have him as a top 5 kicker, but that's just respect for the man's skill. But it is not really in reference to anything he's actually done. It hasn't been a spectacular year, but I don't know. 70-yard field goal could definitely change that. It should be a great spot for Ashton Genty, obviously.
Yes.
Dallas's defense, because they decided they were a buyer at the trade deadline, might be a little better. But they were so flawed at every level that it can only get so much better. But it should be a good spot for Genty. Obviously, should be a good spot for Bowers. Do you have Geno Smith going anywhere?
I do. That's what I'm saying. Yes, I do have been a super flex. And then Trey Tucker, too, a sneaky matchup with Jacoby Myers gone and all the attention going to Bowers. So hopefully he catches a long one. But yeah.
I think Trey Tucker might be a real thing, and he's a little bit under rostered right now on some platforms. And then here's the other issue that we should have hit earlier. RJ Harvey, a concern moving forward, or just a tough matchup? It can be both. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It was a tough matchup. Definitively, it was a tough matchup. I mean, it's a little bit of a concern. Jaleel McLaughlin having a real role. Somebody else was always going to have a real role. They were never going to leave it entirely to RJ Harvey. In the podcast with Chris last week, I almost felt bad saying the name, but I feel like Chris asked me for a comp on RJ Harvey, and I gave him to this point in the season. I don't know. He's been a little Jerome Fordish. right? Like just sort of rough contours. Jerome Ford every couple games will break off. A couple games is wrong, but Jerome Ford a couple times a season will break off like 60-yard touchdowns, and everything else is 2 yards. And that's the way it has looked this year to me, for RJ Harvey. He can do some things. I thought he had a couple of nice moments against the Chiefs. I don't think it looks spectacular. I don't think it looks bad either. I don't even mean to sound like a hater. But yeah, I think some concern is warranted. But I also think, hey, that was a really good defense, and it was a low scoring game, and it was a good game, and I don't know, you can live with it against the Chiefs. If it's like that at all going forward, you probably can't live with it, and it's a disappointment.
That one primetime league I always tell you about that I'm stacked with Cowboys doing well, but a week in the RB2 where I've had Harvey on my bench. Every week he's been an top 10 guy, only getting 5 touches. Well, this week, of course, I go to him and have Gainwell on my bench and him go crazy. So that league should have been best ball. But RJ Harvey saw 14 touches. I mean, that's what we're only hoping for, even without Dobbins, is 15 to 18 max. Tough matchup. The concern was McLaughlin coming in at the 8-yard line. Now, Harvey had just got like 3 straight carries, so maybe it was time for you to take a rest. But McLaughlin, who entered with 1 carry on the year, then got 2 carries inside the 10. The second one of which maybe it was an advantage. He was only 187 pounds because they carried him from the 4 into the end zone. So if Harvey's losing goal line work still with Dobbins gone, that's the real bummer here. But if that was just an aberration, and he gets 15 to 18 touches in better matchups, he can absolutely be an RB2 with RB1 weekly upside.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'd feel the same way about Jerome Ford if he was getting 16 touches in the Broncos offense. So that's kind of where I'm at. Delusional fan baseball. Yeah, that is exactly what that is. And Kevin Payne getting in this chat. Actually, this dropped at 6:59. So Kevin Payne's perfect attendance record remains intact. Good job by him. You made it in by a minute. The rest of you, thank you for joining us. This is a pleasure, Dalton. Awesome chatting with you as always. Enjoy the game tonight. I'm gonna fire up a watch along in the Discord real soon. Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Cheers.